I think it can be kind of quick because we've all seen this coming. This is from Michael Grange over at Sportsnet, who reported that the Raptors are obviously able to sign Pascal Siakam to an extension right now, up to 4 years, $192 million. There's a chance that he could be eligible for more than that in the offseason, but I think, all NBA for him is not in the cards here. So somewhere in that range. But they are not close on an agreement like that. They seem to not have even talked much at all. They want it to be, the team wants it to be fewer years. And so what that is setting up is the Raptors, who want to continue to play hardball, as always, in the trade market, with a player who doesn't appear to be part of their future just because of his age for the most part, is not on a long-term contract, could walk in the offseason, and nobody wants to trade for that. So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by not getting this extension done, not accepting a reasonable trade, and it feels like this is headed towards some kind of bad situation for Toronto because for about 18 months now, they kind of seem like they've refused to confront the reality of this roster and bought instead of sold at last year's deadline, and now they're in this pile of junk. So where do you think this heads, Chris? What extension, trade, neither, both? There's all sorts of different options here. What do you think happens?
I'm going to just say I think free agency, because I don't know why Toronto would really want to give him an extension right now. There's still a lot of season left. There's a lot to figure out. He's good, but is he All-NBA? Probably not. I don't think he's quite at that level. He's at an age where his next contract isn't like a guarantee to be perfect and age perfectly well. So I think you'd want to see out the rest of the year, get more data on how he fits with Scotty and all that stuff. See what happens with OG as well. And you're probably just not getting the value that you'd want, I think, on the market. In particular, I think where trades seem to be going, and you have Woj out here saying it's going to be a quiet deadline. So I don't know how much teams are going to be willing to throw stuff in and out. I would suspect you go to free agency, and then we see if there can be a sign and trade, see if he just leaves. And that's not a great outcome for them. They're not going to get, this isn't going out exactly how they've wanted to, but I don't see a world where it really makes sense for anyone to commit in every way. And again, because all the reporting about Siakam, too, and you hit on this, is just he's signaled this whole time if he gets traded somewhere, he's not signing an extension. So, why, unless that has changed, unless there's a team that can back channel with his camp and kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, but that's to put pressure on Toronto to extend him or sign him to a deal that's more lucrative, right? Obviously, he's not going to go to the G League. He's not going to go to France. So he would sign with somebody. If you're saying he would leave in free agency, then he might extend with a team that trades for him. It's not like he's going to, say no to everybody.
Yeah, but I think... Right, but I think it's also there's probably certain teams he doesn't want to re-sign to that might be the teams that could give Toronto more of what they want or be willing to overpay to Toronto. It's his version of leverage in this situation is kind of how I read it.
Yeah, I guess what he wants is unclear. If they're not going to give him the max amount of money that they can, then whatever he wants kind of seems to die there, right? If give me the most money I can by keeping me and paying me, if that option is off the table, which I think that feels pretty clear now, that version that he wanted is done, then maybe his willingness to go elsewhere alleviates and he's a little bit more ready to play ball on a move. And then the ball kind of goes into their court a little bit. And I think you said it's not in anybody's best interest to move now or whatever. It's in their best interest to move now if the alternative is losing him for nothing. Right? So
what is the
kind of domino effect is that they should trade him.
What do you think he is actually worth? To a team that would go what do you think you would actually want to give up for Siakam right now? With the contract stuff kind of hanging over you a little bit with him.
The comparison that I think you would make is maybe, and they're very different players, they're very different situations, but just from the standpoint of needing to pay him, as you just said, and roughly the same sort of caliber of player even if their skill sets have different values because they play different positions. It's Kyrie Irving. That's kind of the comparison point that I would make on the trade market. One future unprotected first-round pick, maybe 2 protected picks, kind of in that range, and then some salary, but not useless salary, right? I mean, that was Dinwiddie and Finney-Smith. That's stuff that Brooklyn could flip. That's players who are helping them right now. So you're talking about competent players plus at least one good draft pick. To me, that's sort of what I would expect a Siakam trade to look like. Does that feel reasonable? I
think it does. I think the question is sort of, to me, then, like, how do you match the teams? Because, like, Atlanta's been a team we've kind of talked about as maybe having interest. Why would Atlanta be a
I don't
buyer
think they're
right
interested anymore. They're bad, yeah.
They've absolutely slidden, and the trade to hear with them is that the Lakers are eyeing DeJounte Murray, which is very clutch of the Los Angeles Lakers to have interest in DeJounte Murray. So, like, then you're just matching. It's like, okay, where are you putting Siakam? Where's the Siakam trade that makes sense? Is it Indiana maybe? I don't know. Is that a market he wants to stay in? And then I don't think there's really another team in the East that totally could make a trade for Siakam. Like, maybe you could tell me, like, the Knicks want to just swap out, like, Randall for Siakam, but what is that doing for Toronto? Not like they should not be taking Julius Randle's contract back. You go to the West. We've talked about the Kings. I still would like that one. You could maybe convince me the Thunder if you wanted to just get really weird and make a talent play for them. But even there, it's like, I don't know how many teams should be super aggressively trying to buy on Pascal Siakam right now based on what the price would be, based on what their roster is. The needle to thread on Siakam trades, I think, is really, frankly, tricky if you're going to get the most out of a return, and also who should be aggressive in trying to take on some uncertainty and do it.
And he makes $38 million, so it's not exactly an easy trade to make just from a counting it up standpoint salary-wise. So I've mentioned Dallas a lot of times. I think he fits some of what they want to do in terms of switching on defense, being isolation, post, mismatch hunting, heavy type of offense. He can do some of that, but salary-wise, it would have to include Tim Hardaway, and you're looking at Rashawn Holmes, Maxi Kleba. Again, is Toronto doing that? So on court, he is a unique fit. He doesn't fit everywhere. He's older. You have to pay him. That's why I started the way that I did, Chris. Like, they screwed this up last year's deadline, maybe before that. The writing has been on the wall that they were headed here, and I think the best thing to do now is canvas the league, take whatever trade you can get, and move on to the next era of your team, because if you wait any longer, it's not gonna get better. And you risk losing him for nothing, and you don't really get any sort of salary relief or anything that much because you have Pirtle and a Barnes extension coming and an OG and an Obi current salary and next salary and all these other deals. So they got to just take whatever they can get at this point, I think.
You're probably right. Curious to see if they actually do it. It's been one of the more, I think stubborn is a good way to decipher like what Toronto has been the last couple of years as far as making actual moves to transition. It's been a very rigid approach, I think, to what's going on there. And maybe this is the wacky trade. Maybe there's just some team that shouldn't do it that does it anyway, and we'll get some banter about that. That could very well be the case. Long way. It's close, and yet it is so far away to the deadline. We're like a month, and yet it feels like there's a lot that's going to happen between now and then that's going to dictate some things.